Hey, Kiese.
Hey, Jesmyn. Thank you for having me. Thank you for picking my book. I'm so happy. Thank you. For real.
Thank you for agreeing to have this conversation with me. I was gonna say one of the reasons that I chose heavy and that I wanted to lead with heavy is because your writing, not just heavy, but your fiction as well, continuously um, inspires me, and has inspired me for for years. And I thought, like if I'm gonna lead this book club, and I feel like the first book is sort of like a statement on
Mm,
what I want this book club to be and the kind of space that I want it to be and the kind of conversations that I want to have with people around books. I thought, what more perfect book to begin this book club with than than Heavy and your work. Um, and people have loved it. We've been having really good conversations about it in the app. People have been like making really astute, insightful observations
mm.
about the book. Sometimes I feel like they put me to shame because they're such close readers. Like they're
Oh, wow.
closely reading the book. They'll always like pull quotes from the book and talk about like what inspired them about the quote or what made them think more deeply about the quote. And there's just the book itself is just so rich, and I think
Yeah.
it's been a while since the last time I read it. I think that I forgot like how rich it is, and how it tackles so much. So uh, I have a lot of questions for you.
Okay. All
Not,
right.
I mean, not like I don't have like 20, but I have like
Yeah.
10 good questions for you. And then
Okay.
I also have some questions that the book club members, that questions that they asked too. So near the end of this, I'm going to ask you a couple questions that they
Okay.
have. But my questions are not. I didn't pull any quotes. Like my questions are more general. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to give you a pop quiz. I just want
Okay.
I just want to get you talking about heavy, um,
Okay.
and
Thank
you know,
you.
yeah, hopefully have a good conversation about it. But I, I really want to impress upon you how much I love your work and how much your work inspires me, and I feel like really like pushes me to be the best writer that I
Mm.
can be. So
Ain't
thank
nothing
you.
like that. Ain't nothing like that. Because I tell everybody on earth, and I tell you, you the illest to do it to me. So just the fact that you even know my name, fam, I'm not lying to you. It make me feel good. So thank you, for real.
Oh, well, um, you know, thank you. Um, so I'll ask my first question, and you know, we've done a couple events together, and normally you're the one asking the questions. And I know I said this in our last event, but you are very good at this, and I am. I feel like the pandemic has allowed me to sink back into my old, like introverted,
Yeah.
super introverted, reclusive ways. So it might take me a minute to, I don't know,
Oh, work it out. Hey, we here. We
adjust.
work it out.
Um, so I have to read my questions because, I'm just
Yeah.
re-entering the world. Uh,
Right.
so I guess my first question is, when did you first know that you would write heavy? And then was there a space of time between when you knew you would write heavy and then when you actually began writing it? And if so,
Right.
why? Um,
Yeah. That's great.
and if okay, one more part of the question.
All
So
right.
if that question is yes, if so, what was it about the moment when you began writing, like actually writing the book, that made you take that first step and dive into the story?
Ooh. Yeah, I feel like it might be similar to you in that you prepared to write, Sing Unburied by writing Where the Line Bleeds and by writing you I mean definitely Where the Line Bleeds, but I think Salvage too. So for me, like I had to write Long Division. I was trying to write heavy when I started Long Division. But by that, like I was trying to explore a relationship between a black boy and his mother in Mississippi. But if you look at Long Division, instead of going into that relationship, I sort of like write the mother character out so I can focus on the relationship with the grandmother. But that was just because I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the heart work, I hadn't done it. But when I really sat down and was like, yo, I'm gonna write this book about Wade and metaphoric weight and literal weight of growing up in Mississippi with my mama. It was after both books had been published, and it was ironically our editor approached me, and she was like, what you working on? And when editors ask you, you got to say something. And I didn't really have a book that I was working on. I mean, I had a project, but then I told her something about it. And so talking, bringing that book out of my head into somebody else's head, that's really when I first started. But I didn't find the direct address till like 2 years later. I wrote that book as like a kind of traditional, assuming the audience is the person I was writing to. And then I couldn't get into the cracks or the creases. The rhythm was all fucked up. And then I just was like, all right, so I need to. And then I tried to do it in fours. I tried to do one section to my mama, one section to my grandmama, one section to, at that time, my imaginary daughter, and then one section to my partner. And of all those sections, the hardest part and the part that I actually needed to sit in was the part to my mama. So, so that's how the book was. That's how the book was born. But I was so scared, and I just didn't, it's just scene work, also like, there's so many scenes in long division, and this more than anybody from, if you look at like the way Men We Reap, like isn't just full of like lush exposition, but also scene work. I just had to get better at scene work to write the kind of memoir I wanted to write. Cause I wanted the memoir to be heavy with scene and not just my talking about what happened.
Yeah, that sort of addresses one of the questions that one of the book club members had. And of course, now that I'm looking for it, I can't find it. But someone asked, like, when did you get to the point where you decided that the book was going to be a direct address? You know what I'm saying, to your mother, and and what kind of brought you to that decision? But like I said, of course, now I can't find the specific question.
But that's a great question, though. You know what? Like, I was writing this scene where, I mean, shoot, if people read the book, I can talk about it and not feel weird. But I was writing the scene where my girlfriend at the time in high school, we're about to have sex in my mama's bed. And at that point, it was that section was written to my grandmama first, because I don't know why. But then I was just like, this ain't gonna work for a lot of reasons. And then I was like, what I don't want to do is write to my mama about what I did, why I did what I did in her bed. And then as a writer, I think partially because we're some writers from Mississippi who kind of like long for like work, like hard work. And I was like, yo, it's gonna be hard as fuck to write that scene directly addressed to your mama. And then I was like, well, that's why you got to do it. And then from there, the entire book opened up, because I wasn't sure how you could directly address someone sometimes when they weren't necessarily like involved in the scene at all. You know what I mean? I think it's hard to like directly address someone in scenes that have nothing to do with them at all. Like, how do you make the direct address feel organic and make readers feel like, this is part of the design? And that was a task for me. But because I'm writing about so much shit that's hard in my heart, I needed some sort of intellectual, like, writerly task to to pay attention to, so I wouldn't have to just pay attention to that shit that was hurting, you know what I'm saying, in my chest.
And that's how you did it. I feel like that sort of, in a way, leads me to my next question, because in a lot of my work, I feel I can't start writing whatever I'm writing until I find the beginning, right? And so I'm that kind of writer. I'm a very linear writer. I always write from the beginning and write to the end. And so I wanted to ask you in some ways about that. Like, what was the beginning for you? Was the beginning and the actual, like the scene that occurs at the beginning, was that your beginning? Or did you it sounds like you sort of wrote and then found your way to that beginning.
I thought the beginning was, the beginning initially was a section called Black Abundance. That was initially like, that's where the book started. With we about to go to a white school for the first time. And then all that other stuff, like the sexual violence stuff and all of the stuff that happens before that with my mom and her boyfriend and her beating her up and all of that. Like that was gonna be, I knew I wanted to do that back. I thought that was gonna be all backstory because I didn't want to write that linearly, just literally because it was too emotionally hard. I wanted to find things in Black Abundance section to flash back to a lot of the stuff in the boy section. But after I wrote it, and I wrote it that way, and then I was like, actually, yeah, I was like, all right, what'll happen? What happens if you place some of this really sort of hard to write shit, not just as like flashbacks, but in linear time? And then when I did that, that's when I found the beginning of the book, because that's when I found that line, I did not want to write to you, I wanted to write a lie. Like, and when I found that, I was like, shit, I got the book. I still had to write that motherfucker, but like those lines to me were like those propellant lines that were gonna just like, it was like a bass line if it's music. Like I understood the bass line and then I could do different things with my voice. But I didn't have a bass line until I found that line. You know, I wanted to write a lie, I did not want to write to you. Like that's, it just took me a while too to find that.
I feel like Toni Morrison, I could be misattributing this to her, but I feel like I'm terrible. But I feel like I read a quote from her once where she said something like she didn't go with the lines that just came to her. She went with the lines that, because she feels like if they came to her, then they come to somebody else.
Right.
So she actively worked to find the lines, you know what I'm saying, to like reconfigure whatever lines come to her into something that's new and different and original.
Yes.
And I'm telling you that beginning line it's it, you know, and it grabs you from the very beginning, you know, with like with its sort of honesty and with the frankness and as a reader you automatically you identify with it, right? Because in your own life, right? I mean, because you're reading a memoir. So in your own life, you know that, I mean, most of us, right? We would rather write a lie.
Yes, indeed.
You know?
Right. That's right. That's right.
So that first line is just, I mean, it's incredible. And I think that it disarms us enough so that when we then enter, you know, like the section with you as a child and, you know, and where you're sort of feeling very helpless and powerless and disoriented and trying to navigate a world that's overwhelming, you know. I just think that little short section, you know, that leads us into that is just perfect.
And can I say one more thing about that is you know, so much of the book is about my mama really enforcing, you know, language rules on me. And part of the rules were like, you literally couldn't use contractions, especially if she had a bad week or day. And so, you know, I can talk to you about this because you will feel it. Like for me, it was like, I feel like I didn't want to write to you is a different sentence than I did not want to write to you.
Yeah.
And because because if you read the book, you also get to understand my mama's pushing of like sentences like did not. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to write lines that would be read differently as you went further along. And also when you say you and you directly address what appears to be an audience with the first line, I feel like the degree of difficulty goes up because a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you talking to me? And as soon as you say something that does not appear to be them, a lot of readers are like, oh, I'm not the you, I'm going to close the book. Yeah. But then it's just like, how do you do enough with the language to make people want to stick with it? But yeah, like that first line, like when I found that joint, like I was like, okay, I got something here, but like, what is it? I didn't know, you know.
I thought you said earlier, you talked about scene work and that you wanted to do more scene work in this. And I mean, this isn't really a question, it's just observation on my part, but I feel like, you know, you were successful in that, you know, because as I was saying, like from the very beginning, you know, as soon as we enter, you know, Jackson, Mississippi, and we're down the street, you know, like at the house with the pool, with the kids, like in scene, we are there with you, you know, and so I don't know, I just wanted to give you your props because
I feel that because you know there's a way to write that where you don't go in the scene where you know, like, and you can write that where you don't walk people and walk yourself myself into the scene where there's really sort of no mystery and no like secondary characters of substance. And that's the way I wrote it at first, because I was scared, and then I just needed to slow it down.
So once you slowed it down, how long did it take to actually to write a rough draft of it?
Well, I'm talking about the second full draft, because I wrote a whole nother full draft of Heavy, which was just like me talking to my mom and my grandmom. It was just about them. But then once I found the book, it took me oh shit, I was about to lie to you. It took me I don't even like to say, when I really found the book, because I know Kathy gonna be watching. I don't know, fam. Once I really found it, it didn't take me that long. I'll just say it didn't take me, like, once I found that baseline, right? Like once I found like the parameters of what I was doing, it probably took me like 7 months, once I found that, but the whole shit took like 4 or 5 years. But once I started directly addressing my mama, it took me about 7 months of I mean, I had to move back to Mississippi, sit on a motherfucking porch and just write. But it was 7 months though, and that's very short time for me, because it usually takes me a long time. But I needed to get it. I couldn't stay in that book's world. You know what I'm saying? Like I couldn't wake up every morning like I did and stay in that book's world. Like I had to do what I could do in that book and get up out of there, because it was just sort of emotionally hard to write that book. I mean, shoot, more than anybody. Yeah. So I wanted to linger with the characters and the situation and the relationships and all of that, but also needed to get up out of there.
Yeah. So what did you do to not decompress? I feel like that's the wrong word. But what did you do to what did you do outside of the book?
I didn't
to do it. You didn't.
I ain't do shit, fam. Like that's what I mean. I read you. You know what I'm saying? I read you, and I mean, I literally, when I say 7 months, I mean it's hard. It was a hardcore 7 months. Like I woke up every morning, I wrote all day as I could, if I could, and then I wrote hardcore before I went to bed, and I always was writing forward, and then I revised whatever I wrote that week on the weekends, like hard body. But and I was talking to my mom and my grandmama for interviewing, talking to some of my friends because they were part of the book, talking to interviewing people and stuff like that. But I should have done some sort of therapy. I was thinking about it, like I ain't go to no church. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't partake in anything. I didn't partake in anything I like other than writing. And that was a mistake. What it did was it made me, it was a mistake. I mean, it might have made the book, I don't know if it was a mistake for readers, but it was a mistake for me as a writer to do it that way. Like that's a book that you need to breathe while writing. And I did not breathe while writing that. Yeah.
I feel like, at least for like that may not have been healthy for you,
right?
But I feel like the thing that allows us to breathe in the book as we read it is, well, two different things. One is the tenderness, the tender moments of relationships between you and your grandmother, or you and your mom, or you and your friends. I feel like that enables us to like, gather ourselves, get some ease in the narrative,
right.
and then and then move into the more painful moments in the book, and then out of those moments, you know what I'm saying? Like sort of an ebb and flow, and those tender moments between characters is what enables us to do that. I also think that, which I love, and this is another one of my questions that I had, was your sense of humor in the book. Right. So there's this like sort of self-deprecating, at times, like especially in moments where you're talking to your friends and other characters, like they're really funny moments, that I think enable readers to just like take a breath, and feel like the weight of the narrative rise a little bit, just enough for us to remember, that at the same time that there's trauma, there's also joy. And then once we know that, then we can go back into the book.
I thought that was
that purposeful?
Yeah, well, that was definitely purposeful, but it was also me trying to bite you. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like when people write about men we read, but I just feel like they don't write about it right. And I shouldn't say that, but I don't feel like they write about it right, because what I experienced was an attempt to find like, you know, what people could call humorous, or what I would just call like literally, I don't like that word real, but like real entryways into memory and character and imagination. And so for me, Memory Reap is like, I hope it's okay with me to say, but there are parts of that shit that are like mad funny. Like that shit is a funny ass book. And I know people, and I think when you say funny, partially because a lot of people ain't from where we from, people got to be like, oh, but like, I mean, fam, I laugh. I have to find the humorous shit into the hard part. Like for me, like that's a technique. Like there was a scene in Heavy that I took out, but it was the first time, and I'm about to laugh when I tell this story, but I'm gonna try not to because it's not funny. Like, I mean, it was funny, but it's fucked up that it's funny. But my boy Wendell, my boy Wendell was the first person I met who literally could not walk and chew gum. Like he could not do both. Like, so if you gave a motherfucker some Bubblicious, you got to stop. Everybody, all of us, we stopping so this motherfucker can chew his gum. And then when he walking, that motherfucker wouldn't be chewing. He just, because he couldn't do both. And then I remember one time we were like, yo, Wendell, man, look, give me your gum and go in the trunk and give me, and my boy was like, go in the trunk and get my, you know, get some. He was somebody get his gun out. Yeah. So my boy went to the trunk. He spit his gum out so he could walk because he couldn't walk. And the motherfucker go in the trunk and he get the gun in one hand, and then he closed the trunk on his own hand, fam. Oh. And my boy Lathan, who I write about in the book, was just like, I mean, Wendell, that nigga's over there screaming. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with Wendell, bro? Lathan was like, oh man, he just slammed his hand in the trunk again. And I was like, what the fuck, nigga? What are you saying? I mean, we were like 18. Like, and so for me, I remember that shit because also it was like the way he was screaming. And you know, if you slam your finger in a trunk, I mean, what you gonna do? You can't pull it out, man. And so I was thinking, I was writing about watching somebody experience pain, but the whole way I walked up to it was like, I had to do it through humor. But it's also literally what happened. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like sometimes humor is not just what we're trying to do for readers, but it's like how we writers get in and sometimes out of scene.
Yeah.
And memory, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I feel like, let me see. I got to figure out what else I'm going to do.
I love this.
I've been working around. I've been jumping around. Let's see. Maybe let's see. I will ask you about, I want to talk, you explicitly talk about revision throughout Heavy, right? And we just spoke a little bit about revision because you told me, you know, you would write during the week and then you would revise what you wrote during the week on the weekend, which is sort of amazing to me that you could do that and still progress through at least the rough draft of the book that quickly, because I try to, because I would get bogged down, right? Unfortunately. So I guess my question is, let me see. Like for me, like this is a book that it feels meticulously written. I feel like your prose is precise and gorgeous, but it's messy when it needs to be. It's ecstatic because I feel like it takes you out of yourself and transports you to some other place, and then it breaks you, and then it remakes your understanding of the world. Like it does so much. And so I guess I just want to ask you, like, how, I mean, that is really hard to do.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons that you were able to do it is because you revised so much. So how many times do you think that you completely revised the book? How long do you think that you spent on revision?
Wow. Yeah. I was talking to Kathy about this the other day on camera. And I think we came up to about like 36 times, something like that. 36 from the first time, from when I, you know, when I started what I thought was Heavy. I went back in there and yeah, I mean, the book was gonna be a lot bigger, and then I was just like, near the end, I started to get scared. Like I started to get scared of people seeing it. My mama was, it was getting closer to time. My mama was very much like she didn't want the book to come out, and so I don't know why, but in my mind, I thought, well, if I make it smaller, it's so weird. I thought if I made it smaller, people would not. It doesn't make sense, but I thought they wouldn't read it, which is weird, right? Like I was trying to make the book sort of like disappear. Yeah, I've never said that out loud, but yeah, that's what happened. And then I compressed it as much as I could. And then, I mean, real talk, Kathy will tell you, like every time she was like, this is the final shit, I was like, nah, it's not the final shit. Like I gotta move some sections around here. I gotta take this character out. I gotta blah, blah, blah. But like she literally had to take that book from me because I would have kept cutting. I would have just kept cutting until there wasn't no book left. Yeah.
And partly out of fear, right?
Absolutely fear. No question. Absolutely. I mean, nothing but fear. And fear. And this is where I think, man, I love talking to you because like it's fear that people gonna see you, but also I don't know if you experienced it, but it's like it was fear that people were gonna like it. You know what I'm saying? Like I was afraid that people would not like it, but I was actually more afraid that like somehow I had made something that folks would fuck with out of this book, which meant there was gonna be more eyes on me and my body and my mama's relationship with me. And so like as it just got closer to the end, yeah, I was just so scared. I was scared of everything. And then it's just out. So what can you do? But I was so scared.
Yeah. I was the same way with Men We Reap. I remember like once the publicity, before the book came out, you start doing publicity stuff for it. And I was putting forth zero effort on the publicity stuff, like showing up in like jeans, ratty t-shirts, photos, and shit, just like no giving no fucks because I think that was my way of like denying the fact that it was coming out and wanting in some way in my presentation to like turn people away from the book because I was just operating from fear because like you said, like I think part of me didn't want people to read it, didn't want people to like it, didn't want people to see me, and
that's
see
real.
I don't know, and see
that's so real, Jesmyn. I mean, even the way I comport myself now is, I mean, it's heavy, it's heavy related. It's like I always, I was never gonna be somebody who's gonna rock a suit because I just don't rock suits. But I would wear like some button-up shirts or something. But after Heavy came out, I just felt more like I needed to cloak myself, not just at bookstores and shit, but if I did interviews, so like I wear hoodies for lots of reasons, and a lot of those reasons have to do with Trayvon and the way people treat me when I wear a hoodie. But I noticed I started rocking like bigger, baggier, more comfortable clothes. And I think part of it was just like that. Like I just wanted to cloak myself, you know what I mean? And the hat, like I didn't wear a hat before Heavy came out, but in the part, when I'm in Jackson, people, Jackson, I'm born there, so a lot of people know me and shit. So I would always just be trying to wear shit where people, I'm not trying to be like Martin. I don't know if you saw that Martin episode where he go to the DMV and he like, and he up there and he like, they know me. And then she like, nobody know you. And then he's like, what's up? And then nobody don't say nothing. I'm not trying to act like that. I'm not trying to act like everybody know me in Mississippi because they don't. But enough motherfuckers know me to where I was embarrassed, or I thought people would know me. So I would just, put on a hat.
Yeah.
That's one of the good things about the pandemic for me. I mean, there's nothing good about this fucking pandemic, but also it's like I feel some sort of safety just being able to have my face covered and be in my house a lot. And I think some of that is just who I am, but also a lot of that is because of Heavy.
Yeah, me too. Like,
yeah.
So one of the readers from the book club asked they asked the question, because you talk about, I think in the book that you let your mom and your grandmother see versions of Heavy before it came out, and so they were wondering if you let anyone else see any versions of
Yeah, I mean, I sent passages like my friend Lathan, I sent him all the chapters and passages that had to do with him. My partner, my ex-girlfriend in college, I definitely had to let her see it. And because I literally I wanted not just see it, but like help me write this. Like, all right, this is what I remember. And she was like, all right, this is what I remember now. Artfully, how do I make something of that? So I did that with I'm about to say it now. I did that with my partner. I did that with my mom and my granny. And a few people, like when I get older and I start working at Vassar, a few of those folks, but my mom and my granny, my close friends and my partners, like those are the people who I talked to along the way. And I would show them passages and they would be like, nah. And then I'd have to go back and they'd be like, nah. And then, you know, you have to go back and forth. The woman that I was in high school, I went to high school with, I was in a relationship with the white woman, she was a girl at the time. Her and her family weren't happy with it. They wanted to sue me. It was about to go in a part of it was about to go in the New Yorker. The New Yorker reached out to them and then found out that like I had been very, 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 very easy on those people, but they still didn't want that in the New Yorker. And everybody was like, just do it, Kiese, including Kathy. But I was like, nah, I don't want that energy. You know, if they don't want that shit in the New Yorker, I won't put it in the New Yorker, but it's still gonna be in the book. So whatever, you know. Yeah.
I think, and this wasn't one of the, was this one of the questions? How did you, this is just something that I'm interested in, you know what I'm saying? Because it's something that I thought a lot about when I was writing Men We Read. How did you, when you decided to go easy on people, you know, did you have some sort of guiding principle for I mean, was there a question that you asked yourself every time? How did you navigate it? How did you figure out exactly,
you know,
what
I brought my philosophy to fiction to nonfiction. My philosophy in fiction is like, I want all of these characters, if they could read themselves, not to like their rendering, but to be like, he ain't lying. You know what I mean? I want my characters to be like, I don't know if I like that shit, but he ain't lying. And I think to make characters or people say that, you have to also grant them something like kind or wonderful. So like every character in there, for the most part, maybe except me, is you know, like I kind of shaved off the edges. You know, that's what's so interesting. People talk about how heavy that book is, and it is. But you know, like that book started when I found the book, I was writing about a young Black boy's like relationship with someone in his family who was sexually abusing him, and he literally felt like that sexual abuse was love. Like that was heavy. That was going to be heavy. And then when I wrote that version of the book, I was like, all right, that's for me. I can't show anybody that except one or two people in my family. So I showed the people that. And then I went back and I was like, all right, like I don't want anybody who reads a version of themselves in this book to hate themselves or feel like fucked up. And so, you know, you just have to go back and take stuff out or maybe add stuff in. So I don't know. I don't know if you feel that way about your characters, but like, and I guess it's very different you're doing with real people, but you know, that's why I don't give any characterization to George Harmon, the president of the college who kicked me out, because I didn't want to be kind to him. I just wanted to be like, this dude, you know, kicked me out. But I didn't, you know, there's another version where I go into a backstory, talk about his fraternity, talk about walking past him on campus, talk about seeing him in the locker room at the Y. And then I was like, nah, I'm not doing all of that shit for this dude. I mean, I wrote it, but I'm not going to show that to the world. So, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody I write about in that actually gets, I think, fair treatment. I ain't gonna lie to you, you know, even my mama, which is the other character who I might be like, I don't know if I was fair to her, but ultimately, I mean, I think it takes a lot for me to say this, but I think I was fair. I do think I was fair to my mama. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you were fair to your mom. I mean, I think that kind of like shaving off of the corners and, you know, and making, you know, the people that you're writing about into like well-rounded characters, so they have like, you know, I mean, you're telling the truth, but there's always something there to like to garner some sort of sympathy,
Yeah.
and empathy, right? In
Right.
in each character's characterization.
Yeah.
And I think that is a I feel like that kind of attention in the narrative is a kind of expression of love,
I do feel
for
that way. Yeah.
like for every person that
Yep.
write about and that you develop like that. And and when I read your mom, is it that love is there on every
Right.
page.
Right.
It's complicated.
Yeah. It's complicated.
But that that love, I think, that is evident. I mean, I feel like that 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 feels fair.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
I
Like
mean, that's
it feels fair to me as a reader. It doesn't feel like you're like rendering her as a villain.
right. And I think to pull that
Um,
off, I think this is what you do in Men We Reap so well, is like, one, you have to, without being too heavy-handed, you have to describe the culture that your mama exists in. And if you do that with like enough specificity and enough like oomph, I think people can see why all the characters who do shit that we might want to be like gasp about, we can understand why. And at the same time, the thing about my mama is the book don't exist without her. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mama gave me my writerly like practice. She gave me that. Like, she made me believe in revision. Now, if she wanted me to become a writer, a different kind of writer, she didn't want me to ever use the letter / word I in my writing, but she made me into a writer. So I don't know. I just want readers to understand, like, I wrote this book, but Mary, about to say my mama's name, child. I be getting too comfy with you. But Kiese's mother sort of is the reason this book existed, not because she's like some bad boogeyman of a boogie woman, but because she fucking, created, she believed that like in Mississippi, I need to give this dude a hustle, something that he can like use to move through this society, but also shield himself. And she thought that was education and writing. I mean, yeah.
which is amazing. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's amazing because I feel like not everybody, not all writers, especially not all Black writers from Mississippi, especially that that come from like poorer backgrounds like us, get that kind of encouragement. You know what I'm saying? And kind of like, I don't know, like that kind of encouragement, that kind of like, I don't know, belief and and push and in the actual art of writing. So
that's it. She trained me. That's what's crazy, Jesmyn, is like, I mean, my mama trained me and she trained me to write. That's why I start that first chapter called Train, because of, various trains and running trains, but and the things that we train people into doing. But my mama trained me to be, she kind of trained me to be the person I became, though I don't know if she would admit that, but we get trained, and a lot of times, and in Mississippi, we get trained to be workers, and also brought like that ethic into like, I see that ethic in you, like that writerly life. Like, you're never gonna, I don't know if this is true, but it feels like you're never gonna write some easy shit. And you could, but it feels like you, for whatever reason, are like, all right, like my idea is laborious. The writing can't feel laborious, but the ideas are fucking complicated. And that means we got to work hard to get them shits like in a way that we can express and share them. But I just think when you mix like that work ethic that we have with the training around literary stuff, like I had to write. My mama just didn't want me to write heavy.
Yeah. So I'm like eating up all your time.
Please.
I apologize for.
Please.
But I have one last question to ask you.
Okay.
Because we're rounding out the hour. What are you working on now? Are you excited about what you're working on now? Woo! Where are you at and what you're working on now? Or will you answer that question for me, or am I?
Yeah. I can answer. I mean, I had a book. I have a book called Good God that I'm doing. It was due to Kathy a few weeks ago, but I'm in that weird place where I just keep on doing my thing. So eventually I need to send it. So Good God, I have a kids book coming out called City Summer, Country Summer, coming out next year. It's a collaboration with this Jamaican artist named Ricardo Edwards. I got a few other novels that I'm thinking through. and I'm trying to do some TV and movie stuff.
Yeah.
That hopefully I can talk about in the next few weeks or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
You were working.
I'm trying not to work like that, but I'm working right now. I'm trying. I don't know about you. Yeah, I'm trying right now, but I need to chill, fam. I'm trying. I need to go buy some water and just, hear it. Just listen to the water, because that makes me feel good. I need to do that, but it's just hard to stop working. It's just hard for me to stop. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could work by the water. That's what I do. I go to the water, but I work.
Yeah. Last time we were talking and I was talking about some shit that I was like, I don't know how to deal with it. And you were like, why don't you just work half the year in Mississippi and half the year somewhere else? And I'm like, oh, that make a lot of sense right there. But like, right, working near water. But there's that part of me that's like, oh, that would be too easy. Do I deserve that? Not easy, but I'm like, do I deserve that? Yeah, and I think I need to remind myself that I do, but it's hard to believe it,
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for this. Thank you so much for this. I feel so happy right now. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. I always love talking to you. You're my cousin. So
we are, straight up. Always.
It's always a good conversation. So thank you. And I can't wait until we can do it again. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but
I hope it's soon. But if it's not soon, I'm gonna send you a picture in a few weeks of my big ass on a 4-wheeler. And you gonna blame, I want you to blame you. I'm for real. I'm not lying. I know I'm finna give me one. So thank you for that too.
You got to. You got to see the picture and a video. I want the video. I want video too, because I want to see you in action.
But you know what? I might have to put on a helmet. I ain't gonna lie. I might have to wear a helmet. And I know that's blasphemous, but oh no. Yeah.
I think you should. I make my kids put on helmets.
Oh, they do?
Whenever I get on one, I put on a helmet too. I'm scared.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah, okay. Me too. Me too.
So,
I'm real scary, but back in the day, wasn't nobody wearing no helmet. No 4-wheeler. Yeah.
It's weak if you wore a helmet. But...
so true. Look at that weak ass motherfucker with a helmet on. Trying to protect his brain and shit. Right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kiese.
I appreciate it, Jesmyn.
All right.